Whether it's a fake Gucci, or a fake smile in Starbucks, or even a fake ho-ho-ho in this festive season, the search for authenticity is becoming increasingly apparent from consumers, and great businesses are beginning to deliver it to them. One of the people we're speaking to today is Joe Pine. You probably know Joe better from the book The Experience Economy or Authenticity, What Consumers Really Want. And he's published a new report with Arts and Business about using art to render authenticity in business. So here today talking about that is Joe Pine. Joe, can you tell us what is authenticity?
Well, authenticity is really the new consumer sensibility. In other words, the primary buying criterion by which people choose who to buy from and what to buy. And increasingly, they don't want to buy the fake from the phony. They want the real from the genuine. So the number one business imperative today for businesses is to render authenticity. In other words, to get people to perceive their offerings, and by extension their places and their own business, as authentic. And what that means is they really have to match the identity of the individual person. Authenticity is basically conformance to self-image, where my identity as an individual matches the identity of the offering, whether that's a commodity, a good, a service, or experience, and then it creates a sympathetic vibration, that goes back and forth that it allows to say, yes, that's who I am, that's what I'm about. And when you can create that sympathetic vibration, then you're going to get your customers to perceive your offering as authentic.
One of the most authentic businesses is the art industry. They produce authentic performances all of the time. What do you think the arts can actually teach business?
Well, art, as you say, is almost automatically perceived as authentic by individuals. Art is something that is framed as other than everyday. That's something that is set aside as art. And as long as it's not commodified, in other words, being sold as an economic offering, then it will be perceived as authentic. So there's a number of ways businesses can really use arts and draw from the arts and draw from people who are artists and grown up in the arts to be able to render their offerings to be perceived as authentic. One way is to treat art as an object. You see that all the time with corporations that have art in their lobby or hanging on their walls in a hotel or a restaurant or something. Even here in the Cass Business School, I've seen art that is posted on the walls. And so we view that art, we see that, we say, well, that's authentic, and then sort of lends that authenticity to the business itself. But in some cases, the art can be the business itself, that you can create new art forms and artists going into business to create new offerings. Think about an organization like Cirque du Soleil, which really innovated an entirely new art form, where they took their heritage as buskers and as circus people and brought that together onto a platform stage. And now it's a multi-billion-dollar business where millions of people around the world have seen this entirely new art form. Or you think about a Pixar that innovated an entirely new technology to create a new kind of art form using computer animation. Right? Those are arts as business.
So, given that nearly 80% of the UK's wealth comes from services and service industries, and that's people to people,
right?
Essentially performance art. What do you think the arts can bring to those kind of service encounters?
Well, I'll say one thing, which is that 80% is in fact not all services. Some of those 80% are what we call experiences, where you create a memorable event that engages each person in an inherently personal way. And the government hasn't caught up in terms of being able to measure statistics about what's a service and what's an experience, but certainly 80% are in intangible offerings. And one of the key differentiators between a service and experience is when the company understands that work is theater. Right? And I don't mean that as a metaphor. I don't mean work as theater. I mean work is theater. That whenever workers are in front of customers, they are acting. Whether they know it or not, whether they do it well or not, they are acting and have to act in a way that engages the audience. So in fact, their work is performance art, right? That's what theater is a performance art. One of my favorite examples of that, in fact, my partner Jim Gilmore and I gave out our second Experience Stage of the Year award to what was then a very small company based in Minnesota, where I'm from, called the Geek Squad. Right, that understands theater. The founder, Robert Stevens, says he doesn't interview prospective employees, he auditions them, make sure he can typecast them as geeks. And then in costumes then, in white shirts, thin black ties, they're clip-on, you know, just in case there's an altercation, he says. Black pants with things hanging off the belt, white socks, and they drive around in these Geekmobiles, the black and white Beetles with a Geek Squad logo emblazoned on the side. And they have all these theater routines that they go through, including, you know, showing their badge that they have as part of it. And now, of course, it was bought by Best Buy, now it went from a little over 20 agents when we gave it our award almost 10 years ago, to now there's over 17,000 Geek Squad agents, including many in the UK here, that are delivering art as performance in order to turn what is normally a mundane interaction into an engaging encounter.
Clearly, consumers are demanding more authenticity, and good businesses, as you've mentioned, are responding. What's the future of this topic?
Well, the future of authenticity is basically to turn into a discipline. Is that right now we're at the very early stage. You know, we say that rendering authenticity is the primary business imperative of the experience economy. When now that experiences have become the predominant economic offering. Before that, it was improving quality for the service economy. It was controlling costs for the industrial economy, and it was supply and availability for the agrarian economy. Well, today we're still in the early 1910s, if you think about the industrial economy, as Henry Ford created the system of mass production that allowed us to truly control costs. Right? He knew that controlling costs was important, but before he invented that system, it hadn't diffused through industry in that. Now we're sort of at that same point. We recognize the importance of it, but we don't really know all the ways of how to go about doing it. It hasn't turned into a discipline. You know, like quality was too, with the Toyota production system and lean management and all of that. So we need to get to that point. You know, what Jim Gilmore and I put out in our book, Authenticity, is really just an initial foray. You know, here's what we can see right now. Here's a set of principles. Here's some genres of authenticities and how to think about it. But we think many more people will come along and turn it into a discipline. You know, we don't yet have the Henry Ford of authenticity. We don't have the Taiichi Ono from Toyota of quality, but that person's out there somewhere. Maybe he's figured it out, and we just have to figure out who that is and how we can learn from him.